Welcome to the AEN Stories channel.
By the time my wife told me she chose life instead of snow, I'd already spent a decade falling in love with the sound of rotor blades over white mountains. My name's Ethan Moore. I'm 38, a search and rescue pilot based in Alaska. That's the fancy way of saying, when someone does something stupid in the wilderness, or something bad just happens in a bad place, I'm one of the ones who goes looking for them in a helicopter that really doesn't care how I'm feeling that day. My world is ice, wind, rock, and the weird joy of seeing a tiny patch of color move on a distant slope and realizing, that's our guy. You don't do this job for the money. You do it because you're allergic to office chairs and think sleep is optional. I also did it, for a long time, because of Harper. Harper and I met 6 years ago. She was the new flight paramedic on the base, just in from the lower 48, Colorado, specifically, which she insisted didn't count as real mountains once she saw our peaks. First day on base, she walked straight up to the bird, slapped the side of the fuselage, and said, "So this is the thing I'm supposed to trust with my life." I was standing on the other side doing a pre-flight. "Technically, you're supposed to trust me," I said. "The helicopter is just a very expensive, very noisy extension of my bad decisions." She snorted. "You the pilot?" "Last I checked," I said, wiping grease off my hand before offering it. "Ethan." "Harper," she said, shaking. Her handshake was firm, her eyes sharp. "I'm told my job is to keep your passengers alive while you try not to kill us with your flying." "Teamwork," I said. "You patch 'em, I don't crash us. We'll win awards." We didn't win awards, but we did save people. And somewhere between hoist operations in blizzards and long, quiet flights back to base with everyone finally stable, we fell in love. There's something about shoving a backboard into a helicopter at 3 a.m. in sideways snow and then sharing terrible coffee at 6 a.m. in the hangar that accelerates intimacy. We'd trade stories. Childhoods. Old hurts. The first time she saw the Northern Lights, she cried. The first time I saw her fall asleep upright in the rear cabin, still in her harness, I thought, I could do this with you forever. We got married 2 years later on a weirdly warm September afternoon, standing on a rocky overlook above a glacial lake with just a few friends and a justice of the peace who'd clearly been told to hurry up before the wind picked back up. No big dress, no tux, the fanciest thing on me was a clean flight jacket. For a long time, we worked the same shifts. Shared the same base apartment. Shared the same stories when we came home, frostbitten fingers, avalanche close calls, the time we landed on skis in what turned out to be not quite frozen enough ice. We joked that we didn't just share a life, we shared an altitude. But life, like weather, has this habit of changing without asking your opinion. The first time she said the word Seattle, it sounded like a joke. We were sitting on our beat-up couch, eating reheated lasagna after a 12-hour shift. The kind of tired where your fork feels heavy. "You ever think about living in a real city?" she asked, poking at her food. "Anchorage doesn't count?" I said. She snorted. "Anchorage is like a small town that accidentally got an airport." She had a point. "I don't know," I said. "I like being able to see mountains instead of skyscrapers." "You know they have mountains near Seattle too, right?" she said. "And restaurants. And people. And not 40 below in January." "People are overrated," I said. "And so is any place where the snow melts before May." She rolled her eyes. But it became a running bit. She'd text me a photo of some fancy latte from a food blog and write, "You know what they don't have in town? Foam art." I'd send back a picture from the cockpit, endless white peaks, pink sky, the curve of the horizon. "We have better," I'd reply. But over time, the jokes shifted. "I want a place where we can get Thai food at midnight," she said once. "I want a place where we can get fuel at midnight," I shot back. "We have different dreams." She laughed, but there was something restless underneath. I ignored it. Because I liked my world. And I believed, stupidly, maybe, that she liked it too. It got more obvious the year she turned 35. She started saying things like, "We can't fly forever, you know." Our knees are going to revolt, and you ever think about saving for something other than plane parts and winter tires? We were doing okay financially. Stressful job, mediocre government pay, but Alaska is not the place you move to if your primary goal is to get rich. Our wealth was in gear, memories, and the satisfaction of not leaving people to die on remote ridgelines. Harper started bringing up grants and projects. "There's federal money everywhere," she said, sitting at the kitchen table one afternoon with her laptop. "Community health initiatives. Rural outreach. Telemedicine programs. You just have to know how to ask for it." "Do we want to ask for it?" I said. "Feels like more paperwork." "That's because you think a good day is one where you nearly get frostbite," she shot back. "Some of us are thinking about the future." I tried not to take that personally. Tried to tell myself she was just ambitious. That she wanted to do more. But then she started saying things like, "I'm tired of living in a place where the biggest night out is the Walmart parking lot." Which fair again. Still, the frequency increased. We stopped lining up for back-to-back shifts. She signed up for more base clinic work, more admin projects, fewer flights. I stuck with the air. We were drifting. I just didn't know yet that she already had a lifeboat picked out. The message came on a Tuesday. I was home between flights, boots still half-laced, making a sandwich with whatever had not frozen solid in the fridge. Harper was in the shower. Her phone buzzed on the counter. I wasn't snooping. I'm not that guy. Phones, in our world, are usually about shifts, emergencies, "Can you come in early?" But the screen lit up and the preview was right there, bright as a flare. "Already bought your ticket to Seattle, my love. Can't wait." Time slowed down in that weird way it does right before a crash. "Already bought your ticket to Seattle, my love." You know that feeling when your stomach drops on a sudden turbulence hit? It was like that, except there was no seatbelt sign to cling to. My first instinct was denial. Spam. Wrong number. Somewhere a joke. Then my brain, which has gotten people out of some pretty tricky aerial situations, said, "No. You know exactly what that is." I froze, half sandwich in hand, staring at the words until the screen went dark again. My heart pounded so loud I almost didn't hear the shower turn off. I put the phone down exactly where it had been, like it was some venomous snake I didn't want to disturb. She walked into the kitchen a minute later in sweats and a towel around her hair, humming. "Hey," she said. "You heading back soon?" "Yeah," I said, voice weirdly flat. "Got a grid search this afternoon." "Be careful," she said automatically, reaching past me for a mug. "You going anywhere?" I asked. She shrugged. "Might go into town. Get some errands done." "Seattle, maybe?" I asked. Her hand jerked. "Just a tiny bit." "What?" she said, too casually. "Seattle," I repeated. "City, big coffee, lots of people. Someone buying you tickets." Her face did this thing, guilt, panic, calculation, all in a half second. Then she sighed. "You looked at my phone," she said. "It lit up in front of my face," I said. "I can't unsee English." She leaned back against the counter, exhaling like this was an argument about dirty dishes. "Fine," she said. "Yes. I've been talking to someone." "Someone who buys you plane tickets?" I said. "That's more than talking." She set the mug down a little too hard. "You're never here, Ethan," she said. "You're always in the mountains. Always in the air. Always chasing the next rescue. I'm tired of waiting at home like some 1950s housewife with a radio." "We work the same job," I said. "You know exactly what it costs." "I used to," she said. "But somewhere along the way, I realized I don't want to die up here with snow in my lungs and no savings and nothing to show for it but stories about strangers." "Ouch. Who is he?" I asked. She looked away. "Someone from a conference," she said finally. "A doctor in Seattle. We've been talking about a life there. A job. An apartment. Actual restaurants. Real money." "So you've planned your escape route," I said. Did I get a vote at any point, or was I just supposed to read about my replacement in your text previews? That's not fair, she said. Pretty sure Fair left the base when you started sending heart emojis to some guy with an Amazon Prime account, I said. She winced, then threw the line that really stuck. You're in love with the mountains, she said. You always have been. You're married to the sky, not to me. I chose life. You chose snow. There it was. The thesis statement of our unraveling. I didn't have anything good to say back, so I said nothing. I went back to base. Flew a mission. We pulled a hiker with a broken leg off a ridge that didn't want to give him up. My hands did what they've done 1,000 times, steady, precise, firm, while my brain replayed a single sentence on loop. You're married to the sky, not to me. The next few weeks were a blur of flying and not talking. She didn't leave immediately. Apparently, even runaway plans need time to cook. But she grew more distant. More focused on her laptop. More impatient with the cold, the routine, the life we'd built. I kept my mouth shut. I flew. I landed on narrow ridges in crosswinds. I hovered over crevasses so the hoist basket wouldn't slam into ice. I climbed back into my bunk after 14-hour days and stared at the ceiling while the base heater rattled. I told myself staying quiet was noble. That I was rising above. That there was some kind of dignity in just focusing on the work. In reality, I was just disappearing. Losing myself while saving everyone else. One afternoon, mid-flight over a valley glowing pink in low sun, I caught my reflection in the small cockpit mirror, hollow-eyed, jaw tight. Who was this guy? When did he turn from someone who laughed in snowstorms into someone who lived on autopilot? It wasn't some big Hollywood epiphany. Just a muttered thought, quiet but stubborn. I don't fly for her. I fly for me. It startled me. Because somewhere along the way, I'd started telling myself I was sacrificing for us for her, for our theoretical future, for whatever life she said she wanted. But flying? Flying had always been mine. Long before Harper, long after, maybe. It was the thing that made me feel like me. The mountains hadn't betrayed me. The sky hadn't lied to me. Harper had. That clarity didn't fix anything. But it hardened something inside that had been soft and bleeding. I couldn't control whether she wanted to bolt for Seattle. But I could control whether she dragged my name and integrity with her on the way out. The grand thing came at me sideways. We were having one of those forced civil dinners where you both pretend nothing is wrong because it's easier than revisiting the same argument. She was on her laptop between bites, which used to annoy me but now just didn't register. "What are you working on?" I asked, more out of habit than curiosity. "Paperwork," she said. "Bureaucracy. The usual." "You want me to sign anything?" I joked weakly. "You know I love signing forms." "Already handled," she said quickly. That should have been a red flag. I didn't see it then. A few days later, I was cleaning up the kitchen when I knocked a folder off the counter. Paper spilled out, printouts, drafts, some kind of application. Normally, I'd have just stacked them back up. But my name jumped out at me from the page. Lead Aviator, Ethan Moore. That got my attention. I picked it up. It was a grant application. Big one. 6 figures big. For a rural emergency outreach initiative under the banner of something called the Northern Life Rescue Foundation. I'd never heard of that foundation. Under program description, there were paragraphs about leveraging veteran helicopter pilots and paramedics to extend services to remote villages, provide training, etc. All good ideas. Ideas we talked about in the abstract over cheap beer. The problem was the letter of support. I, Ethan Moore, it began, as lead aviator and co-founder of the Northern Life Rescue Foundation, commit to providing flight hours, training oversight, and resource coordination. I stopped reading there. Because that sentence alone was a lodge. I hadn't written it. I hadn't signed it. At the bottom, though, my name was there. With a signature that looked enough like mine to pass a casual glance. My throat went dry. I shuffled through the rest of the pages. There was Harper's name as executive director. Budget breakdowns. Salaries. Travel stipends. A line item that allocated a suspiciously large amount to administrative support. Harper. I called out, voice tight. She walked in, wiping her hands. Yeah? I held up the paper. What is this? She blinked. Oh. That. It's a grant application. For that idea we had. You know, expanding services. Community outreach. Why are you yelling? Because I'm apparently the co-founder of a foundation I've never heard of, I said. And I apparently signed this. She rolled her eyes. You're being dramatic. I needed your name. It looks better. They love pilots. Relax. If we get it, it's good for everyone. If we don't, nothing happens. Did you forge my signature? I asked, very calmly. She hesitated. That was all the answer I needed. It's not forging if we're married, she said. That's exactly what forging is, I said. Using someone's name without their consent. She folded her arms. I knew you'd be difficult, so I just did it. Ethan, this is bigger than your ego. This is money that could change our lives. We get the grant, we have a way out. A way to something better than this icebox. Is this we including Seattle, doctor? I asked. Her jaw tightened. You're impossible. You're committing fraud, I said. That's not impossibility. That's federal crime territory. Oh, come on, she said. They never check. These grant committees are drowning in paperwork. They rubber stamp half of it. Nobody's going to audit some backwoods emergency fund in Alaska. We'll make it look legit. She actually laughed. Ethan, she said, you think the world runs on honor. It runs on who bothers to look. No one's looking up here. She turned to leave the room, confident. I stood there holding the papers, feeling the last little bit of denial evaporate. This wasn't just her choosing another guy or another city. She'd used my name. Used my reputation. Used my job. All to build a lifeline out of the life she claimed to hate. Okay, I said softly, more to myself than to her. We're done. The grant got approved 3 weeks later. I found the email in our shared inbox. Congratulations, it said. Your proposal for the Northern Life Rescue Foundation has been selected for funding in the amount of... I didn't read the number. I didn't have to. She came home that night buzzing. We got it. She said. We're in. This is it, Ethan. This is our chance. Our chance for what? I asked. To get out of here, she said. To move. To build something real. To stop relying on whatever the state budget decides to do with our base. To commit grant fraud across state lines? I said. Because that's the track you're on. She waved a hand. We'll do some trainings. Write some reports. Nobody's going to show up in a suit and dig through our receipts. You are wildly confident in institutions being lazy, I said. She shrugged, smiling. No one looks. She went to pour herself a drink, already spending money in her head. I went to my office, closed the door, and opened my laptop. If she was right, no one would look. So I was going to make damn sure someone did. Contacting the grant committee wasn't as hard as I expected. Their info was right there in the award email. A few clicks, a voicemail, a polite callback from a program coordinator. Hi, this is Ethan Moore, I said when she picked up. I'm listed as co-founder and lead aviator on a recently awarded grant. There's a problem with that. Problem? She asked. Yes, I said. I didn't apply for it. There was a pause. You're saying this application was submitted without your knowledge? She said. Correct, I said. My name was used, my alleged signature forged, and the foundation described isn't a functioning org. It's fiction. She did that slow inhale you hear from people who just realized their day got more complicated. Mr. Moore, she said, I appreciate you bringing this to our attention. We take allegations like this very seriously. I thought you might, I said. Would you be willing to send us any documentation you have? She asked. And, If necessary, speak with our compliance team? Yes, I said. And with whoever else needs to know. Up to and including federal authorities. Understood, she said. 2 days later, I was on a video call with their legal department. Then with someone from a federal agency whose acronym I feel weird typing out even now. I handed over everything, the grant drafts, the forged letter, emails where Harper bragged about no one checking, screenshots of text threads about using my credentials to make it more official. They didn't look bored. They looked interested. Mr. Moore, one of the agents said, to be clear, you did not authorize this application, correct? Correct, I said. If I had, there would be fewer spelling mistakes in my own name. He almost smiled. And you're currently employed as a search and rescue pilot? He asked. Yeah, I said. Out of a base that would love legitimate grant money. This just isn't that. They thanked me. Told me not to discuss the case with anyone else. Said they would follow up. Harper had no idea any of this was happening. She thought she'd gamed the system. She thought I was still too busy flying to pay attention. The knock came on a gray, windy morning. I was on my second cup of coffee, getting ready to head to base. Harper was at the table, working on what I assumed were reports for her shining new foundation. 2 sedans pulled up outside. Not local plates. There's a certain look federal agents have. I opened the door and knew immediately who they were. Mr. Moore? One asked. That's me, I said. They showed badges, introduced themselves. Asked if Harper was home. Yeah, I said. Kitchen. Her face when they walked in will haunt me in a strangely satisfying way for a long time. Mrs. Moore, one of them said, we need to speak with you about some questions related to a federal grant award. What? She stammered. Is this some mistake? We'd like to go over the application with you, he said. And some discrepancies that have come to our attention. She looked at me, eyes wide, a flash of panic under the surface. Did you? She started. I reported fraud, I said. You used my name. The least I could do was reclaim it. They asked her to come with them for questioning. Not handcuffs, not dramatics. Just firm, professional, inescapable. As she left, she hissed at me, "You've ruined my life." I didn't say it out loud, but my first thought was, you were doing just fine on your own. The charges weren't immediate, because nothing in the legal system is. But they came. Wire fraud. False statements. Misuse of federal funds. The grant was frozen before a penny hit our account. The not-so-northern, not-so-life-saving foundation never got off the ground. Harper's way out turned into a potential conviction and a stack of legal bills. We divorced quietly. No big courtroom drama. Just signatures and boxes and the logistical unwinding of a life. She took the city dreams. I kept the snow. People assumed I'd leave after that. That I'd get out, go somewhere with less history attached to every snowdrift. Ever think about transferring? My boss asked gently one night after shift. Sometimes, I said. Then I remember I'd still have to get up early somewhere else. Fresh start might be good, he said. Or I can have one here, I said. This place isn't what broke. We did. He nodded. Fair. A year later, the state decided to expand our operations. More calls. More territory. More need for a base further north, closer to the really remote spots, the kind of places where road access is theoretical and cell service is a myth. They wanted a senior pilot to head it up. To build it. Staff it. Shape it. They asked me. We'll give you support, they said. Budget. A couple of birds. The rest you'll have to create. I drove up to the proposed site, a strip of land near a tiny town, nothing but a drafty hangar, a gravel strip, and the kind of sky that makes you feel very small and very alive. The wind cut through my jacket, cold and clean. I fly for me, I thought. And for whoever's out there needing help. I said yes. We named it North Wind Rescue. Someone in admin tried to call it something sterile like Northern Regional SAR Unit, But the radio operators started using North Wind on calls, and it stuck. I recruited a team. Young pilots with more guts than sense. Medics who didn't flinch at the word blizzard. Mechanics who could coax life out of engines in temperatures that made steel sulk. We painted the name on the side of the hangar in big blue letters. Someone added a stylized little gust of wind. It looked ridiculous and perfect. On our first official call, as we lifted off towards yet another small dot on a vast white map, my co-pilot grinned at me. "Can't believe you stayed," he said. "After everything." I checked our heading. Watched the instruments. Watched the horizon. "Where else would I go?" I said. "The mountains are here. The people who need us are here. And everything with..." He trailed off, not sure how to refer to the whole Harper saga. "She made her choices," I said. "I made mine. I chose this. Snow over life, huh?" He joked. I chuckled. Joke's on her. This is what life looks like for me. We flew on. These days, when the wind howls against the hangar at night and I'm looking over maps at my little desk under a flickering fluorescent light, I sometimes think about everything that happened like it belongs to someone else. The betrayal. The ticket to Seattle. The fake foundation. It's not funny, exactly. But it's far enough away now that I can shake my head and say, well, that was a hell of a plot twist. People ask if I'd ever date again, if I'll ever leave Alaska, if I regret turning her in. The answers, in order, maybe, I doubt it, and no. I didn't choose the snow over life. I chose a life that happens to have a lot of snow in it. And a job that, for all its chaos, has given me something no city skyline ever could. Purpose. Perspective. And a very clear view of who I am when things go wrong. North Wind Rescue isn't fancy. We don't have latte art or rooftop bars. But we've got good people, sturdy machines, and a sky full of reasons to keep going. And me? I'm still here. Flying not for her. Not to prove anything. Just because this is who I am, and this is where I'm meant to be. Under the north wind, with a strong heart, and a helicopter that doesn't care how complicated my love life is as long as I keep the rotors turning. Thank you for listening my story. If you want more raw, real, and gripping stories like this one, subscribe to the AEN Stories channel. Your support keeps these stories alive.